Is this Packers team more likely to surprise or disappoint this season?
They're going to surprise, and I wish I could surprise you and spin while we're talking here, but I could just talk about the Packers and say this is the ideal situation for a young, unproven quarterback from a standpoint of you got two receivers that really showed flashes last year in Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, and they have maybe the best running back duo in the league when you think about how A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones really complement one another. So to me, if you're a young quarterback, he just has to distribute the ball, and hopefully this offensive line plays well. Bakhtiari hasn't been healthy in the last couple of years. Hopefully he's better, and if he is, this is the ideal situation for Jordan Love to be developed and come along slowly. He doesn't have to carry the load. Give it to those two backs, get it to those two young receivers, and I think Green Bay is going to surprise teams. They got 8 first-round picks on the other side of the ball. I think they win the division, and Jordan Love just does this all season long.
Louis, you this optimistic about the Packers after Aaron Rodgers?
I think you have to give them time. Look, I think by midseason you're going to know a lot about this football team, and I do expect Jordan Love to hit the ground running in the second half of the season in a way that looks much different than the first. Think of how much youth there is at the skill position, in particular his top 5 pass catchers. When you're talking about both wide receivers and tight ends, he's going to have 2 rookie tight ends here. His top 5 guys are all first or second year players, and Jordan's going to just be making his second start when he starts the regular season opener. So you have to expect some growing pains. The good thing is they're built bottom up. They're built inside out, meaning offensive line, running back is where they're the strongest. So Jordan has that safety blanket and has the ability to turn and hand it off to Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon and really let the offensive line kind of build a security blanket around him and then continue to develop that chemistry with the wide receivers, which I think leads to a second half where they really take off, or we wind up finding out that Jordan Love isn't all that he's cracked up to be, which I don't believe to be the case. I believe this will be a second half team and that they will surprise on the upside when you start getting into the months of November and December.
All right, I'll tell you what, we talked about this before the show. Let's throw up everybody's pick for the NFC North division and what we see there. And you see Louis Riddick's got the Lions. Yep. Mike T is going with Green Bay. How about that? Jeff Darlington also with Detroit. And I'm going Minnesota because, guys, we keep forgetting about Kirk Cousins and the fact that, I mean, you know, he just keeps coming back. I mean, Halloween, Jason, name all of the characters we thought we have killed off, and every time the fist comes back up from under the earth, and he's still alive, and that's what Kirk Cousins tends to be with Minnesota. All right, this is sort of like the bizarro version of Jerry Jones, but it still is that fodder that the media loves, but we all wonder, why does he do this? So do you have a problem with this from Bill Belichick about his quarterback situation?
No, I think this is exactly what Belichick does best. I mean, I've got a lot of issues with the tendencies and approaches that he takes. Not that I know anything. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time, if not the greatest, other than Don Shula. But look, I think that we are talking about a situation where if you had asked him in 2015 the same question about Tom Brady, he would have said the same thing. Everybody's out here competing. That's what he does great. He created that in Tom Brady. Tom Brady obviously had an edge himself, but Belichick helped foster that. And if Mac Jones can't handle it, then it's time to get out of the kitchen. But I think that ultimately, if he can handle it, it will make him a better quarterback for feeling that constant pressure from Belichick.
I wonder if it is pressure or if it's just the way Bill does it. He's never going to give you the answer you're looking for because he won't reveal anything to you. But still, Louis Riddick, Mac Jones is entering his 3rd year now in the league. Do you expect him to make that 3rd-year jump?
Yeah, I do. Because it couldn't have been a worse situation for him last year, structurally around him. It could not have been worse, and Bill knows that. He knows that. He knows that's why he went and got Bill. I mean, come on. Think about what Mac was up against last year. Just look at the visible frustration that he was showing when he was under center during timeouts. I mean, come on. He couldn't. And Bill knows better than that being Bill Belichick. So, yeah, I think Mac will be markedly better. And as far as Bill Belichick having been around him the years I was around him, of course, he's not going to give you anything. He's definitely not going to give the media anything and go, yeah, Mac's the starter. Yeah, of course he is. You know, he's not going to say that. He's just not going to, man. But he understands it. Look, it'll be in his best interest for Mac Jones to be the starting quarterback. Because for him to bring in Bill O'Brien And for him to coach Mac Jones, and look, Mac was coached by Nick Saban. Mac's not, he's not, someone who's like all of a sudden getting shell-shocked by being coached hard. He gets it. For him to not be the starter or not play up to his potential after Bill O'Brien being brought in here, that's a bad look for everyone. It's in everyone's best interest for Mac to be on that football field and playing at a high level like he did as a rookie and surpassing that level, for sure.
I love that. Lewis, that's a great point, bringing up the Nick Saban of it all, because it's not like Mac Jones has been coddled throughout his college career either. But still, Mike T., Darlington brought up a great point, which is this is how Tom Brady was created in a sense, right? That toughness, that mentality where you always felt like you were fighting for something. Does Mac Jones have that same ability to rise up like this against this kind of stuff?
Yeah, we just don't know. And as Lewis knows from playing for Coach Belichick, he came out of the womb being a competitor. He's going to go to the grave being a competitor. That's who Coach Belichick is. And it's going to make Mac Jones ultimately mentally tougher. And he may not be used to it, and maybe he got a little bit of that in Tuscaloosa, but 31 other quarterbacks aren't dealing with it the same way. But it is what it is. Play well, and you'll be the starter. If not, we'll see Bailey Zappi.
It's a sport where you're going to get hit. It's a sport where you're going to fall down, but not one where you can be prepared for it most of the time. So this is a very interesting situation that's happening there, but still, they're doing all they can with him. There's no question about it. What have been the early impressions of Tua at Dolphins camp?
Look, so far, just from the practice standpoint, I think that all accounts have said that Tua's looked great. To your point, that's not the question here with Tua. It's can he stay healthy? And I will say that the Dolphins have done a lot this offseason. Tua and Miami, the organization, have been very transparent, very forward with what's generally a taboo subject. And I know people want to roll their eyes about the jiu-jitsu thing, but the Dolphins are essentially saying we're going to put him in the best position we can to stay healthy for this season. Tua also pointing out he's changed helmets, for instance. And when he was asked about that, he said that, well, this helmet studies are showing that it gives you a 1% better chance of not suffering a concussion. And he said, I'm going to take that 1% and I'm going to play those percentages. So basically they're saying we're going to do everything we possibly can outside of retiring from the game of football, and we're going to see how this goes. So look, personally, I respect the way the Dolphins are going about this. It's just a matter of figuring out whether, in fact, Tua can stay healthy, and we're not going to find that out necessarily during training camp.
And Jerry Jones has a message for the NFC East. He told the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, I will say that Philadelphia, and if you will, the Giants and Washington team, they need to be on their game because we are. And we're going to be on our game, and we will be improved over last year. That's the best I can do with Jerry Jones, but you get the idea. He's putting it out there once again. It was as close as I could get, all right? It's still early in the morning. Darlington, you give it a shot. How about this, though? Your reaction, though, to these comments from Jerry, because this is what he does. He puts it out there. Oh, you better be ready for us. The Cowboys are coming. Do you like this? Do you love this?
I don't know what the impersonation was. Hey, Sonny, hey, let's go get him.
You didn't think that was very good?
It was fine. I love what Jerry Jones is saying. I'm fine with it. Do I think it's even close to accurate? No. The Eagles are the cream of the crop within this division. There's no question about it. I love the fact, though, that Jerry Jones always knows how to amp us up for a season. He is the kingmaker when it comes to football as we know it. And this is exactly what he does. He gets us jacked up for everything to do with football season. I'm ready to go. I can't wait for it to get here. Thank you, Jerry Jones, for helping me with that motivation.
Lewis, how much better should we expect the Cowboys to be this season coming off consecutive 12-win seasons?
Look, I think expectations should be sky high. I think expectations should be, for them, internally, should be division title. That's what they've got to be looking at, right? They've got to be looking at the Philadelphia Eagles because they are looking up at them. And I think that starts with Dak Prescott making sure that he takes care of the football. I don't think it means that he needs to kind of like go in a shell and not take the shots that he needs to take. But I think you need to expect this football team to take it up a notch. And that means more explosive plays. That means Dak Prescott making those big plays when necessary. That means Micah Parsons continuing to play at an MVP level. That means Trayvon Diggs, live up to the new contract. Stephon Gilmore, provide the veteran presence in the back end to make sure that you guys clamp down on the explosive plays that maybe have plagued you now and then. So I think overall, when you look at this roster 1 through 53, there's one position, quite honestly, that does worry me, and that is running back, and that is the depth at running back. Because if Tony Pollard can't handle carrying the load, which right now he is going to have to, it could throw everything out of whack in terms of their identity as a football team, and particularly as an offense.
Interesting you say that, because while you're talking about running back, on Monday, Dan Orlovsky, he was on the show, and his concern was more about the Cowboys and that plan they have for Dak Prescott. Listen to this. Mike T, are you worried about Dak and how the Cowboys plan to use the offense now and run more, and will he be too cautious?
I'm more concerned about Dan Orlovsky than I am about the Dallas Cowboy offense because I understand Dan's point, but I totally disagree with it. Not all interceptions are created equal. He had 17 a year ago. 11 of the 17 was when the game was tied or they had the lead. I got the stat from Josh before. 70% of the teams that have the lead at halftime win the games in the NFL. That's 2023. You want to pass the score, and then in the second half, you want to rush the opponent, and that's how you win games. And what happened last year with Dak is he threw unnecessary interceptions. And if he throws interceptions when they're behind in the fourth quarter, we can live with that. But when they have the lead and a great offensive line, last year they had Zeke and Tony Pollard. To Lewis's point, a little concerned about their depth, but they could run the ball in the second half, control the line of scrimmage, and win games. So to me, it's all contextual. They still have to pass. They will. They acquired Brandon Cooks. They have CeeDee Lamb. But those interceptions are inexcusable when you have the lead, especially in the second half.
Would you want an apology? Would you care to even get one at this point?
No, quite honestly, I wouldn't. Look, this is a bottom line accountability business. There's a reason why there's a scoreboard. Okay, because ultimately that's what you're judged by. You're judged by winning football games. Now, I understand that there's a way to be professional, and I understand what he's talking about in theory about a code and showing respect for everyone else who has kind of made it to this level and understanding how hard the job is. And sometimes, there's a lot of things behind the scenes that maybe people don't know about that may prohibit you from, performing your job at a high level, and on and on and on. The excuses go on and on and on. But at the end of the day, it's a bottom line business. And Sean Payton basically called out what many other people have thought about the job that was done in Denver last year, and especially when you point to what their record was and how they looked on the football field, how Russell Wilson played. It is what it is. And Nathaniel knows that. His dad coached in the NFL a long time, too. He understands that. So don't stand there and act like, you're all of a sudden, your feelings are so hurt, because it is what it is. And people are held to a standard, and the Denver Broncos organization in particular is held to a very high standard. That is a championship caliber organization. And it wasn't like some scrub coach called him out, okay? This is Sean Payton. This guy's considered one of the great coaches of the modern era, okay? And if you've ever sat down and talked to him about roster construction, offensive philosophy, play calling, the guy knows what he's talking about. So look, it's probably not a good look for Sean, and I'm sure he would like to have handled it differently. But you know what? That's life in the fast lane, man, when you're at the very top. So let's move on and see what this game looks like when the Jets play the Broncos.
Well, that's right. And Aaron Rodgers also had his strong words about it a couple of times when he was asked about it. And, again, that got Greeny all hot and bothered, and everybody else in New York as well. So, there'll be a lot of petty in that game in Week 5. But Aaron Rodgers also spoke yesterday ahead of the Jets Hall of Fame game tomorrow in Canton. He was asked about his own future Hall of Fame eligibility, and he gave a very interesting answer. So if I'm doing the math right, that means he's going to give the Jets 3 or 4 maybe seasons. Mike T, can he do that with the Jets?
Not with this offensive line right now. He has to take it, as he said, 1 year at a time. He's 39 years old. He didn't handle pressure well last year. And I've been around a lot of these quarterbacks towards the end. Brett Favre in New York, Vinny Testaverde in New York, Jay Cutler in Miami. I had the privilege of working with Dan Marino in the front office in Miami. And when you talk to quarterbacks, it's not their arm that does it in, it's their legs and it's their feet. And when you look at the Jets, the biggest question is right tackle. Like, will it be Mekhi Becton? If not, is it going to be Max Mitchell? There's a lot of questions about that. And when you're talking about 3 or 4 years, Alan, we're talking about 68 regular season football games. That is a lifetime. So Aaron knows it. I think he was just probably speculating, and I'm sure he wants to get through this year healthy. And if this year goes well, then we can talk about 2024.
I'll tell you what, if he wins a Super Bowl this year, he can walk away and no one will have a problem with it. If that's what he wants to do, it's really about that and nothing more. So if he can win a Super Bowl, I don't think anybody, any Jet fan in the world would be upset if he only played one season, if that one season got them their first ring in over a half century. But Jeff Darlington couldn't help to hear you chuckle at this idea that Rodgers
you
could play
think,
another
Alan,
3 to 4
if he
years.
wins them a Super Bowl, you'll be happy? You better be. Look, here's the deal. He said something else about this. He said, as long as I'm having fun. That's a curious statement because for me with Aaron Rodgers, physically, sure, I think that he could potentially hold up for 3 or 4 more years. But will this always be the honeymoon that he's currently on? I don't think it necessarily will be. I remember I've talked to Tom Brady about this several times, about the fun of a season. He viewed seasons as being a grind, as being a marathon. And I know Aaron probably does as well. I'm just saying, when things do get to that point where it becomes the grind, is he still going to feel the same way? That, to me, is what will ultimately bring Aaron Rodgers into retirement. He was already contemplating it this past offseason. Tom Brady, you had to rip him out of the game. With everything on the line in his life going on, and you had to rip him out of the game. I don't know that Aaron has that same quality in him when it comes to wanting to play for as long as, say, Tom Brady did. I'm curious to see if that component keeps Aaron Rodgers playing beyond 2, even 3 seasons.
Darlington very aggressive in this segment. I wish he was around the horn where I could just mute you at this point. Riddick said it. You have all the people to hit. You're the guy to hit on this show right now. Lewis, Lewis, I'll give you the final word, though, on Rodgers and how many more years we could see him playing.
Yeah, look, Mike touched on it. This is all predicated on the development of this offensive line. It just is. Their whole season is predicated on the development of this offensive line. Because on the periphery, they're going to look great. I think they're going to be on the same page. It's Aaron's offense. He's telling Nathaniel what he wants and how he wants it to look. Alan Lazard is then taking it to the wide receivers. Randall Cobb's taking it to the wide receivers and going, this is how we do it. Look, that part of it's going to be cool. If he's upright. If he's not constantly in under 2.5 seconds running for his life, trying to buy time, taking hits in the pocket, after the throws. I mean, and I'm talking about big time hits because look, that's life in the fast lane in the NFL playing quarterback. I think that to me will tell the story not only of just their season, but as Jeff and Mike have said, once we get down in November and December and it is a grind, when it's cold walking into that facility and you don't have on sunglasses, but instead you have on a parka, you don't want to even get out of your car to go into the facility, and you're leaving the facility at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and it's pitch black out because the days get shorter and you're having to face this gauntlet that you're having to face in the AFC. That's when then answer this question about how many more years do you want to do this? Because that's what's coming down the pike, and that's why we love the NFL. And that's why we love Aaron Rodgers, because he has answered the bell. Hell, he was in Green Bay, so he gets it. But the question is, what's it going to look like around him, especially up front, Alan? That's the question.
It certainly is, but I was just going to answer that for you when you talked about the cold. I was like, I don't think it's going to be as cold as it was in Green Bay. And oh, by the way, he'll be warmed from all the love he's getting here.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.